Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Off Script with Pastor Jared. I'm here with the newest staff member of Kirby Woods Baptist Church. His name is...
Caleb Richardson.
First time for everything.
Expecting that.
I've gotten Aaron and Nick many times on that. So anyway, today is a good time for people to get to know you. And so just imagine in your head, I know we're in a room right now, and I know you haven't done a lot of podcasts, but we're in a room right now, but hundreds of people in their cars are going to be listening to this episode.
In their car.
Tens of scores of people, fives, will be listening to this podcast in their cars, and I'm in the gym and as they go. And I think the draw for this one is mostly going to be for our church members to get to know you, to hear from you, just to kind of feel you out. And I know a lot of our folks have already met you because you've been here for a few weeks and have been in our kids ministry kind of getting acclimated to the new environment. But want to just use this podcast as an opportunity to get to know you. So I know you a little bit. So some of these questions I'm asking not for my benefit, but still. Anyways, I want to start with, can I monologue for about a 1 minute monologue? Absolutely. I want to start with the value of kids ministry to me, because I've had this illustration in my head, and it's sort of a picture of a river flowing into a waterfall scene. And I'm not going to say God gave me a vision, because that's not what Baptists say. But I will say I've had this thought in my head of it's the extreme value and importance that churches should place on kids ministry. And so here's the picture. You're out in a scene. Let's say you're like a Niagara Falls, massive waterfall, and sort of toward the end, the water's going over the edge. You can see the white water misting and going over the side. And if you go over the edge, you're going to fall hundreds of feet down. So, you don't want to be in that water. You don't want to go over the edge. So let's say in this metaphor that going over the edge represents walking away from your professed faith. So a few feet before the edge, as a lot of times is true with waterfalls, the water can be kind of choppy, kind of white, watery, turning, tossing, getting ready to go over the edge. You go back a little further, it gets a little smoother. Now, let's say you take a walk and you go a mile in the opposite direction, away from the waterfall, and you just follow the river. Most of the time, it's pretty smooth waters the further away you get from the waterfall. Can be even kind of nice. A place you might even go swimming or tubing or rafting and just know I got to get out because later is coming the waterfall. So here's the metaphor. I kind of think of that as a picture of college ministry, youth ministry, kids ministry. And oftentimes church thinks that the best thing we can do, the most effective thing we can do, is to meet kids at their point of deconstruction and engage them there. So where kids are most falling away tends to be in that college age. They get away from their parents, they get out from under their mom and dad's roof, and they go to college and they get exposed to these new ideas. They're in a crisis of faith. They're deconstructing. You can see them questioning the Bible. You can see all these things happening, and they're most of the time that's when the walk away happens. I think we've said the stat is something like 70% of the walk away happens at that point. So rightfully, we panic and we go stand there at the edge of the waterfall where they're hurling at 70% off the edge of the waterfall, and we're trying to get them to stop. Stop it! Come back here, life raft, and we're throwing the little buoys at them to try to catch them. And so maybe someone says, you know what? This is really hard work. What if they never got this far? What if we went downstream a little bit and you walk a few hundred feet up and it's still a little choppy? That's kind of like youth ministry. It's still a little choppy. There's some kids that walk away during that period, but less, and it's a little easier. And you can throw the life raft and they can grab it and you can pull them. But at some point you have a realization, wait a minute, what if we just went all the way back? What if we just went super far back to where the water's really smooth and it's easy to throw and catch and pull these kids out of the danger at this point? Now, you still have to walk with them through life. It's not a profession of faith as a child is not a foolproof, obviously, method, but it makes sense to me to put the most emphasis on a strong children's ministry, a strong next generation mindset, because it gets harder as you go to pull kids out of when they're questioning. The doubts get harder. The questions get way harder to deal with. The things they're exposed to get weirder and more difficult the further down you go. So I kind of think about that as the value of kids ministry. Big, random. Do you like my metaphor?
I do. I like your metaphor.
Okay. So with that motivated me, because I had an opportunity as the pastor here at Kirby to bring pretty much any staff member that I wanted to. I think people would have supported me if I said, we really need a fill in the blank other position besides children's ministry, pastor or some director or some other staff member. My number one priority was this. My number one priority was securing a direction for our children's ministry, because it's that important to me. And I think it's really important in the life of the church. So tossing to you, how would you kind of describe the value of kids ministry? You don't have to give a 3-minute monologue metaphor, but how would you describe the value of kids ministry and what makes ministering to kids a really important part of the life of a church?
Children's ministry, I have always enjoyed children's ministry, and just that's really what God has called me to. The importance of it, you get to, I've never seen someone who comes at faith the way that children come to faith. And you see that in the Bible where Jesus talks about, unless you believe like them, then you won't. Unless you come to me like children, then you won't enter the kingdom of God. And there's just this childlike faith that you really get to see them just experience the stories, be in awe of the stories, and and that's just so much fun. So that's a big thing. But also, parents, they choose churches based on children's ministry. And that's true of me as well. If I was out looking for a church, even just to come to as a pastor, but also just as a church member, I'd be looking for one with a really good children's ministry, because parents will suffer for their kids in discipleship, in preaching, and I don't think that we have a problem with that here, but they absolutely will. They're going to look for the best children's ministry they can so that their kids are taken care of.
Yeah, there's a lot of things parents will endure for themselves, but not on behalf of their kids.
Right.
Especially if you're giving off vibes like of an unsafe kids ministry.
Right.
It's over.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, thinking about the job title that you have, which is, and again, I could have made it whatever I wanted to, but I made it pastor to children and families. I think when you saw that title, that energized you some.
Yes, it did.
So why is that? And then why would you say that family piece is so important in the discipleship of a child?
Okay. So as I was looking for a new position, I felt God telling me it's time to move on, and I started to look, but I didn't really find anything. I found one church that I was really interested in, and we ended up it just didn't work out. And then there were a lot more after that I just wasn't interested in at all. And it took me until finding this church to really come to words what it was, and it was that it missed that family pastor aspect where I'm working with not just the kids, I'm working with the parents as well, and bringing them into their children's faith, and putting them back as the runners. That's their God-given job, and we see that throughout the Bible in Deuteronomy as well as in, I think, Ephesians, and all over in the Bible it talks about parents leading their children in the Lord. And somewhere back in, I think, the 40s and 50s, it kind of got switched where they started coming out with youth ministries and children's ministries and things, and you got this siloing effect where the children are over here and the youth are over here and the adults are over here, not ever connecting. And it's gone so far that I didn't have the sort of upbringing that, the Old Testament people did or the New Testament people did, where their main source of Christian teaching came throughout their entire day from their parents. And while my parents did a great job at bringing that in, I think that a lot of parents are having that problem where their dad wasn't the primary spiritual leader of their house. It was more of their pastor was their primary spiritual leader. And so they don't even know how to do it.
Yeah.
They're
no
lost.
concepts.
There was no concept. They didn't have it from their dad, and maybe their dad didn't even have it from his dad.
Yeah.
And it's been so many generations that nobody knows what to do or how to do that. And so really getting to help this church and help parents just figure out how to do that it really excited me. And that was really the calling that God had placed on my heart back, I don't know, a couple months ago, where it started to come up over and over and over again. And I really felt God just saying, this is what you need to be looking for. So I saw that on the job description and I got really excited. So,
And I wonder, kind of thinking about that, when you mentioned the 40s and 50s, I was just thinking about, I wonder when the public schools really became dominant as opposed to, because there was a time when it wasn't, and then a time when it was.
Right.
And I wonder if that's around the same time when parents kind of got into this rhythm of dropping kids off for the experts to handle them and then picking them back up, because the same thing that happens in public schools happened in churches, where it became a drop-off ministry. And so it's kind of like, well, you're the expert, you're the pastor, and then you drop them off for your children's church and your nursery and your Awanas or whatever the program of choice is, and you expect to pick them up, them having been taught, and then they come back more Christian than they were.
Yes.
And there's an element of that being fine. I think that's a bare bones minimum of what could be, but it's by no means like what's going to work in the long term.
Right.
Because just thinking about the raw number of hours.
It's so much.
When you think about, how much do you have to overcome the time that kids spend? If you're in a public school, that's a lot of time.
Right. The last research that I saw on it, it wasn't perfect numbers, but I get 3 hours if your kids are here every chance the doors are open.
Yeah, faithfully.
Faithfully here. I get 3 hours a week. While I think that parents, some of this is sleeping, some of it they're actually at school. I think it's close to 300 hours of actual discipleship time. If we took that in half just to be safe, that still is 150 hours a week that you have as parents to disciple your kids in just, hey, look at this tree. Isn't it so great how God made this tree? Or, hey, what did you learn in Sunday school? And there's just so many different ways to bring that out without, planning out an entire Bible study to have with your kids on the car ride. It doesn't have to be that. And I don't think it should be that. So,
and, even to push it further on the concept of, you talk about the rightful role of parents, even dad specifically, like you said, I think everybody can imagine a family where, like, you have a situation where the child does not usually drive the spiritual train in the home. I think what you said earlier is true. Parents do pick churches based upon what their children want. If a kid says, I don't have any friends there, I don't like it, I don't want to do it, then most of the time parents are going to do that. But when you get into the daily grind of the home, what you find most of the times is that the kid is kind of turned loose to media, or turned loose to their friends, or turned loose to something else to give them the answers of life. And most families don't have dad, even where there is a dad, don't have a strong, theologically sound dad speaking in to their lives or making sure things are happening. That is rare to happen. And when it does, it's a really great thing that's going to bloom in later years. But man, that's what's missing. I think everybody could say that's what's missing, especially fatherlessness is a massive problem. But just even in homes where dad is there, he's often not the leader in the home.
Right.
So hopefully that can be a goal for us at Kirby Woods to have an unusual amount of dads stepping in to be leaders in their homes. So let's get to know you a little bit, and just do some who are you kind of stuff. Who is this guy? So what was growing up like for you, first of all? Give us a picture of sort of your life. What was your childhood like? Where did you live? What have you experienced? Give us a little rundown. How you came to know the Lord, mix that in there, kind of the time and place, things like that.
So I grew up kind of moving a lot. My dad is a software engineer, so he works right now at Google. He develops the software for phones. And the place to be for that job is in Silicon Valley. So we tried very hard for a couple years to stay out of California. We kind of moved all around as I was real little, and finally settled in California when I was about 5.
Wait, you grew up where?
In Silicon Valley, California. I know. Yes. So I did, but I left as soon as I possibly could. I didn't belong there. So, but I grew up in a Christian home. We were at church, every chance the door opened. We really were. And my mom's dad was a music minister in Texas, and so we grew up. I grew up there. I have 2 younger brothers, and I do have one older brother. He's adopted. He was my best friend growing up, and we adopted him when he was 17, kind of through the police. It was not a legal adoption. It was the police said, you're going to live here, don't get in trouble, because we'll have to take you back to your actual mom until you turn 18.
Okay. Don't go looking into that, ladies and gentlemen. Let that go.
Yeah. So, but he came to live with us and then kept living with us after he turned 18 until I moved off to college. And then he ended up joining the Army. So
okay,
but
so your journey to Texas was primarily based on
getting out of California.
Okay,
I have family in Dallas, and landed at ETBU when I went out there because Abilene, out at Hardin-Simmons, they don't have trees at all. Mm-hmm. They're out in the desert. And
so you wanted more of East Texas.
Yes. So East Texas Baptist University.
That was where you went. You chose that because of something specific, a program, or?
I went, I toured ETBU, DBU, Hardin-Simmons, and Mary Hardin Baylor down in Belton. Had pretty much settled on Texas. I had family there, and I'd been growing up going there every summer. And but when I went to ETBU, they had trees, and I like trees.
Okay.
I didn't want to be out in the desert, so that's kind of how I landed up at ETBU. And I got
So the trajectory of your life,
yes, was based on there's trees and not sand, pretty much. A little bit, yeah. But God really blessed my life through that. I did when I was so we talked about getting saved and stuff like that. I was saved when I was 4, which physically or mentally, psychologically, is that the word? Yeah. Words are hard today, apparently. Psychologically, that doesn't make sense to me.
It's early.
It's real early. And knowing what I do about the development of children's brains, it doesn't make any sense at all. But I remember how I felt. I remember my feeling of dread until I made that decision. So I don't doubt in my mind at all that that's when I was saved. But it is hard. If someone came up to me and their 4-year-old wanted to get saved, I would have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Just
you want to talk to him.
I'd want to talk to him a lot.
I mean, on one hand, though, I believe I was 5. So, I mean, I do understand. Now, 4 is young, man. There's still a difference between 4 and 5.
I didn't get baptized until I was 6, but I do still, to this day, remember that day when I was 4. And we actually were living in Oregon. So,
your knowledge of is going to be that of a 4-year, what a 4-year-old can understand. Right. Kind of like for me, it was what a 5-year-old can understand. Very simple understanding the gospel, but on its face, the gospel is actually very simple.
Right.
And there's more to grow into over time. You don't have to understand the fullness of the atonement.
Fullness, I don't think you can understand the fullness of everything until you're about 12, because that's when that abstract thinking comes in, and they start to develop that. So, psychologically speaking, children shouldn't be able to be saved till then. But I absolutely think that when God calls you, there's nothing you can do to refute that. And
I think obviously kids can come to faith at an early age, and I think you can baptize kids if you can look at them and you can, especially with mom and dad who know them and know if they're playing around, or if there's a true understanding of the gospel that's appropriate for the age. And mom and dad feel comfortable, and you feel comfortable that mom and dad are going to reinforce this, I think you can move ahead.
Yeah. And something I always look for is a kid can't get saved until he knows he's lost. So if he doesn't have that urgency and that feeling of I've messed up and I can't do anything to fix it, if I don't see that at all, I really bring the parents in and like, what do you see? I have them just kind of work them through it as well. so that we can all come to a consensus. Like he or she isn't ready yet.
Yeah.
But when they have that, I need help right now. I can't wait till we get to the car. I can't wait till we get home. And it's not I want to get baptized. I want to do what my friend did. It's much more of I messed up. I need help. That's normally what I look for. So.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with delaying baptism if you're not sure,
right.
Because if you're truly saved, then you're truly saved, right. And whether or not I agree and do the baptism isn't going to not let you into heaven,
right?
So, yeah, that's the kind of way I think of it. So good. Well, give me kind of a run through of how you met your wife, actually. Because I'm chronologically, that's somewhere in there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that before seminary or during, after?
We were in college. It was my freshman year, but my second semester, she started at
So she
UT.
went there?
She did. She went to UT Tyler first for the first semester, and then transferred to ETBU. But I didn't meet her at ETBU. I actually met her at church. So I ended up visiting the church that she was at that point, and she was real pretty.
That helps.
Yep. So we started hanging out, ran into her at school a couple days later, and then we hung out, and I finally asked her out about a month later.
Okay.
So and we dated all through college and got married after we finished our bachelor's degree.
And then and you have one child. How soon after getting married did that happen?
She wasn't clear after her surgery to have a baby until 2 years. So I know it was at least 2 years after.
2 years after? Okay. Yeah. So you weren't like Dinks for very long.
No, we were not.
Dinks is all the rage in the news right now. So I just wanted to
no, we weren't. We were like half, because I was part-time still in my master's degree until the very end of it, and then she got pregnant. So
the two half dinks make one whole dink. That's a great question.
It's 1.5 dinks.
Okay.
Because she was full-time.
Okay. So good. You guys met sort of in that, and we're all through college dating. Where's your first, do you remember the first date that you went on? Where you went? Where you took her to? Can you remember? She's listening, so be careful. Remember. I
think we went to see a movie. I know we went to see a movie. I don't remember the movie.
Okay. What year was it? Do you remember? I can pinpoint the movie.
14.
14? Mm-hmm. Oh, it was Frozen.
No. Actually, I do remember that was an option, but I think they were sold out.
Yeah. I know Abby and I did see Frozen. It's early. I can't remember if that was the first one. It might be, but I think our first date was to Huey's, the burger place, but it was the downtown Huey's because she lived down there. Anyway, I digress. So what's kind of a run through of your church service? Where have you been? Give me kind of a caricature snapshot of each place you've served up till this point.
All right. Served as in been there and served, or been on staff?
We'll say on staff.
Okay. I was an intern for my church back in California in 2015. I went out there and learned a lot. I was a youth intern, actually. I wasn't in children's ministry at that point. Kind of felt the calling to children's ministry after that. And then the next summer, I was an intern at a tiny church in Gill, Texas. It had maybe 100 members, and that was a lot of fun. It was a very small church, very country church, very different from what I was used to, but we still had a lot of fun, and got to do a lot of fun things. That year we had a Viking Norway themed VBS, which was very fun for me. So after that, I got a job at my first church, Central Baptist Church in Carthage, Texas.
And that was that part-time?
That was part-time up until the very end. They bumped me up to full-time just before I ended up moving.
So would you say they're the ones that took the chance on you, or or the next one? It was them? It was them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They were a mid-sized church, about 200, 250. A lot of fun. Enjoyed being there. And then after that, I went to Woodridge, which is where I just came from, and I was there for just under 5 years.
Okay.
So,
and how would you snapshot if you just caricature 36,000 foot your experience at your last church?
A lot of change. Mm-hmm. Good change. God-induced change, but a lot of it.
And it would have been during the COVID years anyway.
Yep.
So one thing I know, because you told me, is you were hired under one pastor, and then he retired?
He retired about 3 years in.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you've endured a change at the senior pastor level as a children's pastor.
The second time I've had to do that.
Yeah. And so how is that?
It's hard. It's It's hard. So my first church, I was hired by a interim pastor.
Normally they don't do that.
No, but
normally you would
didn't
advise
have,
your interim not to be making hires.
He didn't the church made the hire, but
Okay.
he was very much like, hey, we need to get someone over children because we don't have anybody. And it took him about a year after I came on to hire an actual pastor. So
Okay.
yeah, so don't go anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. That's I got to at least give you
A couple of years would be great.
yeah. So yeah, you're there. You've endured change, and then something kind of leads you to come our way. What were you looking for when you were surfing the resumes? I know you mentioned that family aspect. Is there something about Kirby Woods particularly that you saw that was interesting, or something about Memphis you found interesting? Anything at all?
The opposite of the Memphis thing. Originally, my wife sent it to me, and I found that they often know before the husbands know, or at least in ministry. She knew when it was time to leave our last church. She knew where we were going to my last church, and she knew about this one too. So she seems to have a connection with God a little bit faster than mine. She pays for the higher gigabits or something. But so she sent me the job listing, and I saw Memphis. I was like, nah, I don't want to move to Memphis. I've been to Memphis. I've driven through on 40. I don't want to do that.
It stopped at Belly Acres.
Yes. No, that was just before that. Yeah, we had stopped at Belly Acres.
Sat at the pink tractor.
Yeah. So and then about 3 days later, I kind of just got a feeling like maybe I should look a little bit more at what she sent me. So I looked at it, and it just started listing off everything written down as, what we were looking for was just in line with what God was calling me for. And we actually, like Jared said, we were on our way through Memphis, dropping the youth off at youth camp, and we were driving through on the way back and stopped and ate at Belly Acres without knowing anything about the job or the church or anything. So when we came back in October to check the church out and for them to meet us, we were getting off the interstate, and I'm like, I think we were around here back then. And then we pull off and we turn to the hotel that we were in, and it was in the same parking lot as that.
Yeah.
It was
not
very
deja
funny.
vu, but you were actually here.
Yes, it was. It's funny how God does that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, and as you've kind of as you were kind of looking at Kirby Woods, what were your first impressions of Kirby, from afar or getting here?
Afar,
and you can be honest.
Oh no, from afar, the website says a lot. If you see a church with a good website and an updated website, you know that they're trying really hard, and they're doing a good job at being open to the younger generations and the people having kids and things like that, and that's great.
Isaac, you heard that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I saw that and immediately was like, yes, this is a church that understands the importance of that, which is really good. And then after we got here, it was just, this church is very friendly. They're very open and willing to connect with new people and just to bring them in to their family. So that was just such a big plus.
Good.
Which is so encouraging. And they have continued to be that way since we've been here. So
yeah, after the newness wears off, you'll see. But no, I really, it is a very friendly church. That was always known to me, and I think people really do. They love you, and people want people to join this church. I mean, I don't think we have the cliques, and I don't think we have that mindset of like we just want to be this little closed off group and kind of enjoy our company. I really think they want as many people as possible to come and be a part of this and grow. So that's a huge thing to be able to have that.
My wife has been she's been recruited to a couple different Sunday school classes.
Oh yeah.
So everybody seems to want us in their Sunday school class, which is very encouraging.
Good. So give me, as you kind of think about things you've done in children's ministry that are the favorite things you've ever done. First of all, what would you think that would be? Like, what's something you've done and you're like, I think I would do that anywhere I went. Anything come to mind, or anything that you have on your radar of wanting to implement at Kirby Woods?
Children's camp. I love children's camp. I do. I love children's camp.
His face lit up, ladies and gentlemen. You can't see it through the audio, but there's a big smile, a big Cheshire cat smile.
Yes. Well, I'm wearing one of their shirts today.
Yeah.
So I went and worked at camp one summer, loved it, grew up going to camp, and have since gone back and camp pastored at the same camp. And I absolutely love that. And I would really like to get our church to be able to go to camp this coming summer.
What's your camp of choice?
I like Century Kid a lot, and I like them because I know that once I get the kids to camp, a lot of my job is just making sure they're up and where they need to be. A lot of camps will have you come in and they'll have you teach. I'll have to ask volunteers to give up a week of work, as well as, hey, prepare this whole Bible study for camp. And that's just so much to ask of volunteers, especially when they're giving up a week of work or making their husband take care of the kids while they come to camp or whatever it is. It's a lot. And so being able to say, hey, once we get the kids to camp, your job is pretty much done. You're just hanging out with kids. You're making relationships, and you're there for them. Is very, very encouraging. So,
what do you? How would you phrase this? I asked you this before, and I liked kind of the phrasing of what you said. The best way to get the church energized to want to serve in the children's ministry. What have you seen in successful ways to do that? And I'm going to guess what you're not going to say is to stand up in front of the church and beg.
No, that doesn't work.
Okay.
The best way that I've heard about and read about and implemented is having such a fun and group-like feeling for the leaders to where they're invested in the children's ministry and they have a joy being there that they go tell their friends in the church, and just having them just be kind of people out there saying, hey, you should come work in the children's ministry. We have so much fun. It's so encouraging to get to just lead these kids through the Bible stories or play games with them or connect to these kids, and just having them take ownership of the children's ministry as well. And then they do the recruiting for you, which is...
Yeah. Because, I mean, how often is it presented, guys... We don't have enough volunteers in children's ministry. We really need your help. Can anybody please volunteer? The more that do it, the less you'll have to serve. If we, isn't that how it's normally done?
So often, yes, that is very much how it's done.
And which comes across as this tremendous burden that nobody wants to do, but we know kind of we have to, so we press and press and press. And a lot of times it just ends up being the same few people that do it, and they get burned out because a lot of times you're missing out on other things, and we kind of present it as that, it's a missing out ministry.
Right.
But if you have, like you're saying, if you have so much fun in the kids ministry that it becomes an attraction in itself, then you're really telling people, you're not begging people. You're saying, hey, I love it. You got to come join me.
Right.
You're missing out actually by not coming and having fun. These kids have fun.
Yep.
So I love that approach. It's a complete mindset change. It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, it is.
From the norm. So I think that has to be how it is. Now, the important thing is you actually have to have fun in there.
Yeah, we do. We do have to have fun.
So that's, but I love the mindset change. Completely different than the begging approach.
I don't like the begging approach. It also doesn't come off really well to visitors.
Yeah.
If someone is visiting the church for the first time and the first thing they see is someone begging to take care of their children,
yeah,
that's not very encouraging for a visitor with kids. Like, oh, who's back there with my children?
Right. And sometimes cattle calls don't bring out the best and brightest.
No.
Sometimes they bring out the people you really would rather not.
Right.
And then you have to kind of say no, and it's awkward. And yeah. So very good. A little off the wall question for you. I don't know if you've ever thought about this or not, but what's a common mistake that you think is made in the average children's ministry? So if you kind of think in your mind through, I've seen, I've been to conferences, I've met guys, I've networked, I know other children's pastors, I kind of know the landscape of children's ministry in America. What's something that you see as a norm that you think is bad? Now, we just named one, actually.
Right. That's another one. I think it's very easy for children's ministers and youth ministers, and I'm sure all pastors, to do it all themselves and to kind of build the church on their back a little bit and build the children's ministry or the youth ministry or the program on their back. And then God calls them away and the program just crumbles. And so I think it's very important to almost work myself out of a job. Like there's always going to be things that I have to do, but having the people know what they need to do and having people be able to step up into those roles and just, delegating different tasks to people so that when God, if that happens, calls me away, then the church is set up and can continue to thrive. And so, but also that saves children's ministers You can get burnt out in children's ministry. You can get burnt out in ministry in general.
Yeah.
Very fast if you try and do everything yourself.
Yeah. So that, I think you're on the money. I mean, how often have people never even seen their children's pastor because he's back running the whole thing every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and then you look up one day and you're like, I don't think I've ever seen him. Does that guy even go to our church?
Yeah. And he's probably like kind of slumped over and sluggish walking by. Yeah.
You got to remember, like, the children's pastor is a member of the church too, just like I am. I mean, people forget that. Like, how does the pastor get fed? I mean, that's a good question, right? Yeah. I mean, and we should all be able to read our own Bibles and do our own devotionals and things. But at the same time, there is something to that communal gathering or hearing the word preached from someone else to you. I mean, you want some of those experiences yourself as a normal church member.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Important to remember that. So what do you think the average Christian parent is looking for in a kid's program? And that can either be like, they should be looking for it, and that's great, or not. And then what's something you think that they need to be looking for but are not caring about?
I think most people, when looking for a children's ministry, if they're looking for a church, they're going to look for something that's fun and safe, somewhere where their kids want to go, their kids are excited about going, and they know their kids are going to be safe. And those are two very important things.
Yeah, and in our day and age, you get it. You get why that's a leading factor.
Not having to fight your kid to go to church, not having to fight your kid to leave to go to your class when they're crying, that's very, very important in parents' minds. But something I think that they should be looking for is a program that's going to challenge them as parents. Because, again, like we've already
that'll preach. Come on now. Push them.
No, like we already talked about, they're in charge. They're the ones who, it's their job. It doesn't come down to, they got their kids to church. It's did you teach your children the word? Did you teach them the gospel? Did you bring them up in the Lord? And so a children's ministry program that really helps parents train them, equip them as much as they can to do that. And you can start wherever. Start by just praying for your family, and then maybe start with praying with your family, and continuing through that. So.
I think you're exactly right, and I think sometimes that's maybe not looked for because it's that extra layer of accountability, and nobody likes accountability.
Right.
But if you think about it, it's kind of like when you're a parent, you're in a stage of life where it's almost like you have two sets of things that you have to do, where you should already be challenged as a church member to be a Christian out in the world, to be making disciples, to be going on mission, to be sharing your faith, to be living a holy life. I mean, go through what Christians are supposed to do. You're supposed to do those things for yourself, and then you're supposed to be a sanctification for your spouse. But then when you have kids, then there's another piece where it's like, and I have to lead them and grow them. And so a lot of parents, I think, just want to check out because it's like, this is already hard. I just can't you do that, and so then
it is hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It really is, and because it never stops, and it's a daily thing, and just like being a normal Christian is, but except you've got it. There's no turning it off for the other person.
Right.
You constantly have to be there for them, for your kids, and so I do think that's maybe one reason why it's that accountability piece. And sometimes people think if I pretend it's not there, then it won't be there. If I pretend I don't have to lead my kids, then I won't have to. But like the bill comes due. Yeah. Either way.
It's like pretending an affection's not there.
Yeah.
It'll come back. You can say it all you want.
But it is there. So, I think that's really good. I've had this thought in my head. Let me live run this by you. This should be a private meeting. I was thinking about like someday I think our kids ministry should have their own like mission statement or a vision statement or something that can kind of just be true of that area. And I don't have the whole thing figured out, but I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if the first few words were, we partner with parents to ...
I've literally written that in different visions I've made for children's ministries.
Because that's good to hear. But isn't that it? Like, we're not trying to do some random things separately. We're trying to partner with parents to encourage them and to equip the parents to do what God's called them to do. But we're not this separate entity that runs outside of what parents are supposed to be doing.
Right. No, we want them to come to you, and absolutely. And I'm here to help in any way that I can. I think the whole church is that way, and we should be. We should be able to, you have a question. How do I help my child deal with, their grandparents' death? How do I help my child deal with this? Different questions like that. Growing up's hard.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder. And so having somebody at the church so you can come up and say, hey, my kid had this question. How do I answer it?
Yeah, and that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
The equipping piece, but not the replacement piece.
No, and then we always, the children's ministry's there so that y'all are able to be poured into, and we can pour into your kids from a different channel.
Yeah.
They're going to listen to us different than they listen to you. They're going to hear the same things because we're going to be preaching the same Bible, and then they're going to start to realize, like, oh, mom and dad, they know what they're talking about because, Pastor Caleb said that. Like, yeah.
So I think one last thing before we kind of start the wrap up here. There's kind of a spectrum of opinion on how far to integrate family ministry. So like what you described up front of the silo approach is bad. Mm-hmm. But it's on the spectrum. It's the far end of the spectrum, where you're a professional. It's your job. The church is supposed to disciple my kids. I drop them off. They take care of it. All right. We'll call that the silo approach. All the way on the other end is extremely popular today. I've seen churches do it. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not where I want to be. And it's a fully family integrated system where there actually is there's no children's ministry. Right. There is no special gathering of children per se. There's no program. There is no Awana's GA's Team Kid program of choice. Right, yeah. Right. You've just, what you've said is like, they should always be with their parents. There's never a split moment. Right. And we should now, I think that is more true than the other end. That's better than the silo.
It is.
If you're asking me to pick that or the silo approach, I'm going to pick the silo, or I'm going to pick the family approach. But I think you and I both agree, and obviously you're here, so like if we didn't, it would be bad. But I think we both agree that there has to be some step that's not all the way in the family only approach, where there is a program at church that's age appropriate for kids to be catered to in their stage of life that they can handle, and still challenge mom and dad to do their job.
I think it's about 40%, like 60% away from the silo effect, 40% away from the family ministry only thing.
Mm-hmm. So tilted that way, but
not all the way over there.
Not the Buddhist everything in moderation, right in the middle.
No. I think we're a little closer to the family ministry.
Closer to family, okay.
But still having the church there to give the support and give y'all the time, because it's important for y'all to get time to be poured into by God, so that you're able to pour out for your kids.
Well, I know that's a debate that's raging right now. In people that think like we do, good people that I love, that I think have gone a little too far and thrown out all organized children's ministry, which I think is too far. I would like to still see some programs and things that are for kids, led by people who love kids and are skilled in speaking to and reaching kids. So,
and I think that speaks to the community as well. That we are open to having kids, and parents are looking for stuff for their kids to do. Especially
as the world is getting weirder and worse. I mean, we just read the news today about the Satan Club over at Chimney Rock. So, the more that stuff hits the news and comes out, and the more people are wearied by the world, they look to the church to do things that maybe we in the past did and stopped. Like, I mean, our trunk or treat was extremely well attended, in part because it's a safe place to go, and so why not use that as an open door to the community to get to know people and to have them be exposed to the gospel?
Right, absolutely.
So, all right, fun questions. Woo. We're going to close on some fun questions. All right. What is your most special and secret talent?
I literally talking before this, I said, I don't think I have any special talents.
And I was like, I'm going there.
I don't have any
Come on,
talents.
you
I
can.
don't know.
Can you juggle?
I can't even juggle. I can juggle 2.
That does not count. Can you? Let's see.
I can play guitar, but
Okay.
I mean, not super well.
Okay.
I was learning and then had a child, so.
What do you got, man? Come on.
Special talents, I don't know. I got nothing. Funny facts about me, I got lots of funny facts about me.
Yeah. What's a fact about you that is interesting or unique that someone might want to know?
I am 2 organs short of a whole person. I had.
Is that like being one fry short of a Happy Meal?
No, it's similar. I had my spleen and gallbladder removed back in 2020 due to my spleen being, I don't know, like 3.5 pounds. It's supposed to be about 6 ounces.
Wow.
Yeah. So they took that out.
What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your life today?
I have to get 5 or 4 shots every 5 years to immunizations for like flu and pneumonia and stuff. I have to get those because the spleen would help with that.
Okay.
I don't like shots, so yay for that. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I don't know. It kind of solved the problem that the spleen was causing.
Okay.
So that's good.
Any other interesting facts?
I got locked in jail in Thailand on mission trip.
Okay. Can you go back?
Yeah.
You can go back.
We were giving out food to the people in jail, and they had a shift change. So it's not like we were preaching the gospel and got thrown in jail. We literally got forgotten about.
You shouldn't have said that last part.
I would tell that story to kids, and then I would tell them as they're leaving, I'm like, hey, make sure you tell your parents what actually happened, not just Caleb got locked in jail. Yeah. And that's all they told their parents. Yeah. So I had a bunch of parents asking me, why'd you get locked in jail?
That's like you said, I tried Coke once.
Yeah.
But the ice cubes got stuck in my nose. Yes. Mission trip wise, have you been? Is that the one place you've been? Have you been anywhere else?
I've been outside of the U.S. I've been to Thailand in high school, and then I went to Honduras back in February of this year.
Okay.
So we were building a house.
Well, as you know, Kirby is a missions church, so you'll be getting out there.
Sounds good.
Just a matter of where. All right. Anything else?
I'm colorblind.
Can we? Yeah, I'll ask you your favorite color.
Don't add. I don't know. Gray.
So you are actually colorblind.
I am. I am red-green colorblind. I can see all the colors. I just can't tell them apart often.
Okay.
So, like, if you ask me, here's a color, now find that color in here, there's no chance I'm going to do that.
So being red-green colorblind, does that make Christmas a very difficult time for you?
It can. I mean, like, it's bad. I had an orange ball, like a tennis ball, and I was playing fetch with my dog back in college, and I threw it out there, and she lost it. She didn't bring it back. I had to call a friend. It was gone. I could not find it in the grass. He drove down there, and he just got out of his car, picked it up right off the grass, and just threw it to him. Like, wow. Thanks. I could not find that.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So that's good to know.
Yes, don't ask me help painting your house. I can paint. I don't pick the colors, though.
Okay. So actual colorblind. Very good. Favorite food? We'll go there.
I like Asian food. I grew up in California. Lots of different types of Asian food. And they don't have that in East Texas or in West Tennessee or Louisiana. Mm-hmm. They have a little bit, but not much.
So in that's a broad category, Asian. What are you? I
like all.
You said Thai.
I like Thai food. I like Mongolian food. I like Korean food. I like it all.
Man, okay. Have you found your Memphis spot on that kind of?
We went to Mosa's. I think our first Sunday.
I've heard about that.
Was good.
All right, let's go there then. My other question was your favorite restaurant, number one so far. Now you've only been here how many weeks? Maybe 4, 3 or 4 weeks. What is your favorite so far restaurant, and we can compare the answers later.
I don't know. Casablanca today was good.
You did like that?
I had 3 servings.
Okay. So we had our staff Christmas party today, ladies and gentlemen, and they let me and Isaac pick the food. So we actually
you did a good job.
Technically, so it is Casablanca, but technically it's Sufi's now because they bought them.
Right.
It's the Germantown location. So maybe Sufi's is your favorite so far.
It was good.
That's Mediterranean. So you like Mediterranean food? I
do.
All right. What about your favorite? Have you formulated any barbecue opinions so far about Memphis?
Central was good. I like the Tennessee west or east of the Mississippi style of barbecue. I always have.
Okay.
The barbecue sauce is different. I don't know. It's sweeter or something. Mm-hmm. But I've always liked that. So I like the barbecue out here. My wife's having a hard time. She likes the brisket.
Because she's Texas.
Uh-huh.
Well, it isn't going to be the
it's
same.
It's not going to be the same, but it's still good.
Nobody does brisket out here. And if they say they do, they usually don't mean what she means.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
So, because I do have a Texas card. I lived there for 3 years.
Right.
So I have had that brisket that she's talking about, and it is quite good. I mean,
it's good.
You can get it on the level of enjoyment of steak almost. I mean, it can be really good.
It also can be not so good.
There's some bad brisket out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but there's some, if you get the juicy kind, oh, man. When they say, I learned that they'll ask you if you want it marbled or something, and I never had anyone ask me that about brisket. And so that means you want the fatty piece.
Right.
And yes, you do.
You do. You want that thrown in there.
So right now we're rocking with Central as your number one so far. And
I haven't tried any other barbecue yet.
Okay. Well, there's plenty of opportunity. Favorite thing about Memphis so far?
There's so much to do.
That's good.
Shreveport, there wasn't anything to do. They had parks, but all the parks were in the areas that you did not want to go to.
Oh, okay.
And other than that, there wasn't anything to do. You could go to the aquarium, but it cost money. You could go to Walmart.
Okay. When you're on Walmart,
they had Surge, but that was expensive.
You're listing Walmart under things to do. It's not a good list.
So like it wasn't young family friendly. Like you go to a restaurant and there's green spaces here for kids just to run around and play in, and that's not a thing in Shreveport. And so having that is really exciting.
Good. Well, yeah, that's good. We do have a couple nice things here. A good zoo, like I told you about.
We've been there.
Shelby Farms is really a really nice place to go.
Been there quite a lot.
Good playground for kids out there. A lot of green space. Walked the little fake lake there.
Yep, we did. We walked one of the little lakes through the trails yesterday.
Yeah.
We went out and went on a hike.
Okay, awesome.
Sort of.
They have a huge dog park.
Yep.
At Shelby Farms. And Children's Museum here is very good. And someone told me that they're about to do a big renovation and make it even better.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that's just a few things. But yeah, that's good to hear.
To do.
So you feeling? Here's your last question before we close.
All right.
Any buyer's remorse? Are you still feeling pretty good about your call to come out here?
I'm still feeling real good. I'm excited. We're so happy to be here. We really are.
Just sold your house today in Shreveport. So this is actually the point of no return.
Right.
So
legal tomorrow. Official today. Legal tomorrow.
Okay.
So
good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Signing off with your new pastor to children and families, Caleb Richardson. And hopefully you get a chance to get to know him. If you see him around, say hey, take him out to lunch. You pay. and get to know their family, and hopefully have a great, strong ministry here pouring into our kids and families to encourage everything that we've been talking about in this episode today. So if you're in the Memphis area and you are looking for a church that has a great children's pastor, you got one here. Come on out. And he's still kind of in that getting his feet wet phase, learning how things have been done and what we can do in the future. So don't get too wild with your ideas quite yet, but pretty soon it'll be time to get wild with our ideas, and we'll grow in the future. So thanks for listening today, everybody. Have a wonderful week. God bless.